Good morning, James Chapman.
Hello. Good morning. Welcome to all our guests. Welcome all our guests.
Welcome to another week, another episode, another day in the lives of James and Addison, getting after it in this whirlwind of business that we have. And we're going to bring it to the tippiest top of the mountain, and we're going to push that rock down the hill just so we can pick it back up. That's an old Sisyphus reference for you if you didn't know it. And it's also very relative to life. Just to give you an example, we are in it today. We're bringing some heat, and James is ripping heaters over there. So we are ready.
I'm ripping heaters. Did you hear me fart just a second ago?
Yeah.
Did you really?
I heard it.
Golly, man. I am. Yeah. That was a heater I'm ripping this morning. So I've had some of my people, working out of my office for the past couple of weeks. They come in here and work 3 days just so they can get them in understanding of where I come from and my mentality of like how I do work, my philosophy, how my expectations are on work. Also, it gives them an opportunity to ask me a ton of questions as they're working through something. How would you present this? How would you go about this? What's your thoughts? Right. So I got to be real with you. Like if I'm working and for some reason I got to fart, I don't want to walk to the back every single time I have to fart. So I'm doing this thing where I would just literally go and like try to fart in the middle of it. And sometimes it works. Sometimes my timing is a little off, but yeah. Needless to say, we know each other a little bit better now.
Right. This is the name of the game. It's what happens.
Yeah. And don't some of you folks turn your fucking nose up at me. You're human too. You fart like everybody else. Don't give me that shit.
Don't do it. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
So James Chapman.
It's a real grinder. All right. I have to fart sometimes when I'm working.
Okay. Hey, whatever works, buddy. I mean, you didn't try to cover it up for me, so I know that means that we're fairly close.
Yeah.
So James Chapman, let's do a little rapid fire this morning again.
Okay.
We did it in the past. I would like to do it again and just kind of see what my word makes your thoughts come up. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
And then you can hit me with something if you so choose. Purpose.
What life's about.
Happiness.
Overrated.
Teamwork.
I mean, teamwork. I mean, it's the only way you work. People like to talk about working by themselves. Everything's teamwork. Everything. So before I came to this podcast, the reason I was late is because I was up front having a meeting about teamwork, communication, how we work together. If everybody feels just responsible to me, that is not a good team. You need to be responsible to each other, the person to your left and your right. That's what makes a difference. You're going to get me off on a tangent on that one. Like, and it's so interesting how we can get frustrated at a situation or an individual, and we add on to that exponentially because we don't just take a second and communicate. Sometimes some of the best conversations I have in my office is when I call somebody in here, and I use this example this morning. I've been pissed off at some of the people on my team and not communicated to them. And then I finally bring them in here and say, hey, I'm wrong. You did this and it pissed me off. And I've been frustrated with you for 3 days. And a lot of times they go, I could tell you were upset with me about something. I just didn't know what it was. Right? Instead of me just going, hey, that pissed me off, but I'm wrong. I'm wrong because I didn't communicate to you. I should have taken a second and said, hey, this isn't the right way to do it. You didn't do it to my expectations. This is the way I want to see it. I'm sorry for being that way. Because now, I mean, I'm like no better than anybody else when you do that. You got to communicate. Everything is a team effort. If you're the only person who works in your company, still a team effort because you apparently work with clients, right? Like everything's communicating, working as a team.
That's a fact, Jack. But one of the things about working with a team, working on a team, and working for a team, alongside of a team, what is the number one rule?
In my company?
Sure.
I mean, here, I mean, it's communicate. I mean, I beat in communicating.
That's exactly right. And that's, if that's not your number one, and you've got happiness, or you've got culture, or you've got blank and blank and blank above communication, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. If communication is not number one, based off of everything that you do, active communication, direct communication, open communication, you can't have a team without communication, period.
That's right.
Because if you've got your left hand doing something than your right hand, and they're not working together to make something happen, you're working in opposites.
Yeah.
You're working in opposites. And you need to take this home and have open communication and direct communication with your spouse, your friends, because it's all the same. If you lack communication skills, there is a problem. And that will flow into everything in your life.
100% agree. 100% agree. I mean, let's go to marriage. I mean, your marriage isn't great because you never fight.
That's right.
You know, when I hear somebody, we've never had an argument in 25 years. Fuck, are y'all even trying? Do you live in the same house? Like, what do you mean? You know what I mean? Like I talk about my team here. Hey, we move a lot of stuff. We do a lot of high volume. You know what? You know what happens with movement? Movement creates friction. And sometimes that friction turns into a fire. You're going to piss each other off. It's the communication that matters.
That's right. That's right. And at the end of the day, if you're in a marriage, or if you're in a spousal relationship, or if you're in a friendship and you guys are going about things and you never had an argument during the entire blank amount of time that you've been together, over 6 months, I guess, one of you is giving up on your values, your thoughts. One of you is not saying something and allowing things to continue.
Yeah.
If you think that everybody's just on the same page all the time without open communication, are you just the same person?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
You ever been at a meeting or something somewhere and you're like meeting strangers and somebody starts talking about politics or something going on in the news or whatever, and you have no relationship with this person, and even though you totally disagree or you think they're a freaking idiot, you say, yeah, man, oh, wow, that's crazy. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's amazing. And then as soon as you walk away, you totally forget that person and never even remember who they are. Okay. Why is that? Because you're not invested in them. You have no interest. A good place, there is going to be disagreements. Honestly, I look for people to challenge the thought. That makes me better.
Yeah.
I do not come up with the best ideas in this company all the time. I come up with plenty, but I don't come up with all of them.
You can't.
Yeah.
And even if you did, they wouldn't be the best ideas.
Well, it would limit us, right? So, I mean, there's a line there, right? At the end of the day, I'm in charge. I got to make the final decision on something, right? I'm the one who's got to put it in place and say, okay, this is the way we're going to move then. But it all comes from feedback, disagreements, different thoughts, frustrations, all those different things help. Most of the solutions come from problems. You know, like if there wasn't ever a problem, why would you, if you never had a problem, why would you ever come up with something different? Why would half the companies wouldn't exist? Because there wouldn't be any problems to solve.
Right. And that's where innovation comes from.
I mean, hey, maybe it's unfortunate certain things have to exist, but that's the case.
Yeah. Pressure makes diamonds or it crushes the stone. We talked about that earlier this week a little bit.
And if you go, well, that isn't the way it works around my company. That isn't the way it works around my organization. Maybe there's a couple of things. You either have somebody who is totally disengaged, or, okay, maybe that's the case, but maybe it's because of you. Maybe it's because when somebody does give an alternate opinion, you freaking destroy them.
Mm-hmm.
You get defensive.
Or you allow it just to pass over and you don't say anything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There was one of the guys that I meet with on a regular basis. His biggest thing is this, or his one of the sayings that he says: miscommunication causes wars.
Yeah.
It flows, man. Like your point of view cannot be expressed without you expressing it, right? I can't understand where you're coming from without actively listening to what you have to say and not thinking about what my rebuttal is, or what my turn, or what I'm gonna say.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a huge problem with that when we started this podcast, because it was like, oh, James said this, I'm gonna say this, and then I hold on to that for 5 paragraphs of James's conversation, and I say, hey, let's circle back to this, and it ruins the conversation, and we don't move forward. When the moment you realize not everything that you think has to be said, the conversation moves forward.
Yeah.
Because maybe, just maybe, if you were listening, maybe they just brought up the point that you needed.
Yeah.
I don't know. But miscommunication, man. Miscommunication causes wars.
Mm-hmm.
Inside your company, inside of you, inside of, the government, inside of other governments. Kind of funny how not communicating everything to everybody seems to put everybody on different wavelengths.
Yeah. So let's talk about, we talk about communicating. So a lot of times, though, my mind immediately goes to, what am I saying? Right. Mm-hmm. Just like you were talking about. What about you're listening, you empathizing, if I got a problem, what I want to try to envision I am that person and trying to see it from their side.
Yeah.
Gives me a lot more understanding.
But that takes a minute to be able to get to that point in your life when you're saying, okay, I'm actually trying to put myself in their shoes. And I never really understood that until, recently, where like, I'm really trying to put myself in James's body and say, how does he see this? Which you can never do. Like, you can never fully understand a human, but the thought process behind it is, are you detaching your own personal experience from the conversation? Mm-hmm. In some points of the conversation, there's obviously points where you have to interject your feelings and your thoughts, but when that other person is talking, detach from your emotion a little bit and say, wow, James sees this. I thought he was an idiot, but it actually makes sense. Me being in the marriage that I am with someone that doesn't always see things the way I see things, whether it's political, whether it's this, whether it's that, I actually, like, coming from such a closed space and then seeing that loop open to where it's like, wow, I never even thought about, gun control in that way. I never thought about, this in that way. I never thought about cooking in that way. Mm-hmm. And now you're opening up and you're learning and you're building yourself and you're learning yourself. just by having different conversations with different people.
Yeah.
Important conversations.
Yeah. I agree.
Not just hey, how are you? Oh, I'm good. How are you? Good.
Yeah.
Not that. That's not a conversation.
Yeah. And then also taking the conversation and going into, once you start doing that, then you start asking questions, and then maybe you get to the issue behind the issue.
Yeah.
Right. Because usually what's stated up front is usually not the case. There's something deeper rooted. And, yeah. And then you ask a follow-up question. Okay. Well, you, instead of immediately trying to defend yourself, right? I walk in the house and I go to Danny and say, hey, I feel unappreciated. And if she just turned around, it's like, what do you mean? I do this for you. I do this for you. I do this for you. Then it's an argument. But if she goes, well, why do you feel that way? And then I got to sit there and explain why. Maybe she might show me how it's being pretty trivial. Maybe I'm focusing at that moment because how she told me by this morning, instead of me not, I'm looking at that 5-minute section instead of the last 5 months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it opens my view up.
Yeah.
Because instead of her getting defensive, she just asked me another question. She just asked me a question. Well, why?
Now, when that question is asked of you, it is on you to be able to express your feeling. If Danny asks you that and you say, I don't know, I just saying, you just ruined the perfectly good conversation of building.
Yeah.
Relationship building.
Yeah. So let's take that to work though. Sometimes it can turn into an environment where people, have a very open door policy, and then it can turn into where it's just gripes and complaints constantly, right? Sometimes people need to vent about a situation. Totally cool. That's life, man. Sometimes I need to vent, right? But if it is turning into, hey, all they do is come in here and just vent and then just dump all this garbage on me. Some of the things I've done, I think I've talked about it on this podcast before, but where if I'm starting to get a lot of that, what I'll say is, hey, look, I'm tied up in the middle of something right now. Do me a favor. Or they give me just a snippet. And I'm like, hey, do me a favor. I want you to go type that into an email to me, nice and clear. So as soon as I get the minute, I can actually read through it, process, and then we can discuss. Then they got to go actually type it out what the issue is. A lot of times it never comes. You know why? Because they start to go type it out and realize, oh, they're doing is pissing and moaning.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing worth typing here. I can't even make coherent sentences. All I want to just say is, hey, this pissed me off. I think it's freaking stupid. All right. Yeah, it is stupid. All right, let's get back at it.
Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's methods to that.
So question, what do you do to build up your communication skills?
Well, as I expressed, I try to ask questions, right? Instead of throwing out an immediate response. And then the other thing I'm really trying to work on is, 2 pieces: empathize. I feel like I've done that pretty good for a long time. I really try to stick to that, because if I take a minute and detach and try to see it from their viewpoint, with that though, I say a lot of times that's when, like, if I'm feeling like the communication's not happening or there's a problem or I have an issue, I will try to see it from the other person's point of view before I approach it.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Do you think that the military helped you or hindered you with communication?
Helped tremendously.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I'll say on a deeper level, or like just surface level conversation or communication?
No, I think on a deeper level for sure, man. I mean, because I've been dressed down right there in front of other people many times.
You mean with like communication hanging out?
Huh? No, I mean, like, if you're fucked up, somebody walking up and telling you you're fucked up, they don't care if other people are standing around or not, right? Like you get used to that, right? Like, hey, it makes you look out for each other better, honestly, because you get your ass chewed standing around in front of everybody, and then your buddy gets his ass chewed. It's just like, it's the nature of it. So what you're doing is you're looking at your buddy like, hey man, that's screwed up. And, they're not just trying to make you look bad. They're trying to help you from getting chewed out by the boss. Yeah. So, or just keep you squared away, right? I will say in the military, I think it's easier because the environment and then how they all correlated, right? Like, hey, this could be life or death, right? You need to learn to communicate and listen when it comes to the way your uniform looks before you walk out the door, because the next time it could be something in the middle of a battle, and it could be somebody trying to save your life, right? Yeah. So it correlates well, especially when I was we were in the middle of a war. But there's no doubt, military helped tremendously. The platoon I was in, one of the platoons I was in, they were big on doing squad competitions. So they get the 4 squads out there, let's compete. And it would be for something simple. Maybe it was just for their amusement. Maybe there was a little treat they would give us at the end. My squad was not the rock stars. We were not the rock star squad. We had some pretty sharp guys on the squad, but we were not the fastest. We were not the strongest, any of that. But we were amazing at communicating with each other. And a lot of times when they would do some kind of competition, we would win it because they would make the competition around working as a team, and we would strategize quickly, and like everybody would just get on the same page super fast. We weren't a bunch of meatheads trying to just look better than the other. We were trying to work and win, and we would win most of the time against the other squads because of that. It was so clear how it was communication that was doing it for us. Yeah. So we just didn't try to just muscle our way through something. We strategized. Yeah. And it worked.
That's huge. I mean, it shows you that a lot of what life is about is taking out the bullshit, taking out all the stuff that doesn't necessarily matter at that point in time, and being able to effectively communicate with each other without all the external stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then being able to see that creates a winning team.
Yeah. My issue, one of my biggest downfalls is communicating with women.
Yeah.
My industry is basically dominated by females now.
Yeah.
Same. Majority of my staff is female, and I have an issue communicating with them properly sometimes. It's not out of disrespect. It's the fact that, I don't know, I think my mama raised me to be a Southern gentleman. And sometimes when I have an issue, I'm very light about it because I don't want to come off as disrespectful or to hurt feelings, right? And these ladies in here, man, they're tough. And, I have to sometimes call them back in my office and reiterate and get really direct and say, hey, look, this is me. This is not you. I should have been much clearer on this, and I wasn't, because I was trying to save your feelings. And I know that's me. You didn't ask
to be respectful, you don't overly respectful.
Yeah. And man, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't want to speak for other parts of the world or the country, but here in the South, when it comes to the ladies, you're supposed to be a gentleman.
Yeah.
So I don't care if you're younger than me, you walk in, I see, clients, whatever, it's yes, ma'am, no ma'ams, that kind of stuff. It's just the way I was raised, dude. Yeah. And, so sometimes I struggle when something's all fucked up to look them in the face and say, hey, you're really fucked up on this.
Yeah. And that comes back down to active communication, in the sense of saying, hey, if I do this, if I say this way, you have the open right to say something like to me, if I say something that does hurt your feelings or this or that, understand you can tell me.
Yeah.
That way I know how to communicate with you, because if not, then if I pop off and I say, hey, you messed this up and and that hurts your feelings. Okay. Hurt feelings. Understood. How do you need me to communicate with you? Because not everybody does. Like, if I cuss in front of one person and they just shut down, my point's not getting across.
Yeah.
Right. And even if it's just something simple where I say shit or I say damn, if it's something that they don't communicate with, I now have to understand that, okay, hey, in this conversation, it's you and I. Let's have this conversation. I'm not going to cuss or, get intense or anything like that. But I need you to understand that this is going to be a very direct conversation, right?
Yeah.
But being able to have that open communication with someone that's, in your office, or at home or a friend, like it's important to be able to say, hey, look, I understand that you don't communicate this way. So I need to mold my communication skills around you. But that's a part of being in leadership.
Yeah. Man, I've had somebody tell me I cussed them out. They're like, well, you cussed me out. I'm like, cussed you out? And you asked me what the hell I was doing. They said I cussed them out because I was like, hey, what the hell are you doing? Like, what the hell were you doing when you did this issue or this problem came up? They said I was cussing them out. You know, people take stuff very differently, man.
It's about understanding that.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It's complicated. It's complicated.
Yeah. But that's what's so cool about it.
Yeah.
Communication in life, it's all complicated, but it's also so simple. It's all so simple. Ask the right questions. Be thankful for what you got. Move on. And don't ruin an apology with an excuse.
That is true. Yeah, own it.
Yeah.
Yeah, own it for sure.
Three rules. 3 rules.
Man, what a great podcast.
Yeah. Guys, girls,
ladies,
everything in between. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart to the top of your ears, thank you. You know, because the sound, whatever, podcast.
I'm just really happy I'm having a great hair day. I feel like I'm having a really good hair day, and I'm just happy about it. Thanks, man.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to support us. And what would help us so much is that the algorithm is based off of
so much.
The algorithm is based off of how you guys interact with our podcast on iTunes and Spotify. Give us a like. If you like the podcast, share it, right? Addition to that, leave us a review. Give us the stars. Because if you do that, we grow. By us growing, we touch more people. That's why we do it, to touch more people and to have more conversations like this so that more people can get more out of their lives. I want to inspire the inspired. And I can't do that if I'm only talking to James. Right? And only James is listening.
Yeah.
And he can't do it.
And I'm only
listening.
I'm only listening half the time. So
yeah. We've touched base on that communication. With that being said, guys, don't forget to go check out Origin USA. Sorry, I don't know what just happened. Origin USA and JockoFuel.com. They support us. We support them. We want you to support all of us. And we want to support you. And by us supporting you, we want to know who you want us to talk to. Give me a name. Draw a name out of the hat, and I will contact them and I will get them on this podcast. Except Matthew McConaughey. He's been so hard to get a hold of. So hard to get a hold of.
McConaughey. All right.
That's my man crush. So at some point, mark my words, save this podcast at this point in time, play it back to me in the future. I guarantee you we have Matthew McConaughey on this podcast.
We will get him.
Anything else? You guys have anybody you want us to bring on that you think would be a good mix? We're here. We want to know, and we want to talk to those people. We want to get you the information from them to you in your beautiful ears and start making your mind grow. James, what do we do?
Grinder out.